Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. The October wind cut through Aurora, Colorado, carrying the smell of dying leaves and winter's promise. Braxton Coyne pulled his pickup truck into the driveway of 2847 Maple Street, the same house he called home for 8 years. The same house he'd bought with steel-earned money and built dreams around. His work boots hit the pavement with a heavy thud. 12 hours at the construction site had left dirt under his fingernails and concrete dust in his hair, but the paycheck was solid. At 34, Braxton had worked his way up from steelworker to construction supervisor through discipline and reliability. No shortcuts, no excuses. Braxton, hey Braxton. Lois Draper's voice pierced the evening air like a rusty nail. She stood on her front porch, her gray hair wild from the wind, clutching a cup of coffee that had probably gone cold hours ago. Lois knew everyone's business on Maple Street, whether they wanted her to or not. Braxton grabbed his lunchbox from the truck bed. Evening, Lois. I need to tell you something. She hurried down her steps, her slippers slapping against the concrete. About your house. What about it? Lois glanced around, then lowered her voice. Someone was screaming in there all day. Loud screaming. Crying too. I thought maybe Delaney was hurt, but when I called, nobody answered. Braxton's hand tightened on his lunchbox handle. Screaming started around 10 this morning. Went on for hours. Real disturbing stuff. Lois wrapped her robe tighter around her thin frame. Sounded like someone was being tortured. The wind picked up, rattling the bare branches above them. Braxton looked at his house. Every window was dark except for the kitchen light they always left on. No cars in the driveway except his truck. Delaney's Honda Civic was nowhere to be seen. You sure it was coming from my place? Positive. I was doing laundry all morning, and my machine sits right by that window. She pointed toward the side of his house. Sound travels, you know. I thought about calling the police, but then it stopped around 3. Braxton nodded once. Thanks for letting me know. Is everything all right with you and Delaney? You two seem, I don't know, different lately. We're fine. The words came out flat, automatic. Probably just had the TV up too loud. Lois didn't look convinced, but she backed toward her house. Well, if you need anything, Braxton was already walking away. He climbed the 3 steps to his front door, fishing his keys from his pocket. The lock turned smooth and silent. The door opened to darkness and the faint smell of Delaney's vanilla candles. Delaney. No answer. He flipped the hall light switch. Everything looked normal. Their wedding photo still hung crooked on the wall Delaney had knocked at askew last week and never bothered to straighten it. The coat closet door was closed. Mail sat in a neat pile on the side table, but something felt wrong. Braxton set his lunchbox down and walked deeper into the house. The living room looked untouched. The kitchen was clean, dishes put away. Even the coffee maker was off, its red light darked. If Delaney had been home all day, where are the signs? She always left traces of coffee mug in the sink, magazines scattered across the couch, her shoes kicked off by the door as he climbed the stairs, his work boots loud on the wooden steps. The bedroom door stood open. Their bed was made, but the corners weren't tucked the way Delaney usually did it. The comforter hung uneven on one side. Braxton walked to Delaney's jewelry box on the dresser. He lifted the lid. Empty, not completely, but close. Her wedding ring sat alone in the velvet-lined compartment where she usually kept her grandmother's pearls, her gold earrings, the diamond tennis bracelet he'd bought for their 5th anniversary. The bedroom rug was off-center by about 6 inches. Braxton had installed that rug himself, lining it up perfectly with the bed frame. Now, one corner bunched against the baseboard that he walked to the closet. The door wasn't fully closed, hanging open just enough to show darkness inside. Delaney always shut doors completely. She hated gaps, drafts, anything that wasn't sealed tight, that a sound from downstairs made him freeze. Footsteps? No, more like something shifting, settling. Braxton moved to the window and looked down at the driveway. Still empty except for his truck. Lois had gone inside, her porch light glowing yellow against the growing darkness. Another sound. Softer this time, Coming from the hallway, he left the bedroom and walked toward the guest room at the end of the hall. They bought this house planning to fill it with children, but Delaney had decided after 3 years that kids would complicate things. Braxton had accepted it, like he accepted most of her decisions. The guest room door was closed. Braxton turned the handle and stepped inside. The bed looked slept in. Not messy, but the pillows were dented, the covers pulled back and hastily smoothed. Who had been sleeping here? He knelt beside the bed and looked underneath that a small black device sat against the wall, partially hidden by a dust bunny. Braxton reached for it, his fingers closing around smooth plastic that a voice recorder. Digital, the kind reporters used. Still warm. The red record light was on. Braxton sat on the edge of the guest bed, the voice recorder heavy in his palm. The display showed it had been recording for 9 hours and 14 minutes. The memory was nearly full that he pressed the rewind button, listening to the mechanical whir as it scrolled backward through the day. When he hit play, Delaney's voice filled the room. So good when he's not here. I can actually breathe. Another voice responded. Male. Younger than Braxton. How long until he gets home? Not until 6. He's working that site in Lakewood today. Delaney's laugh was different than the one Braxton knew. Sharper. We have time. Braxton's hand tightened on the recorder, but his face remained stone still. He fast-forwarded, stopping at random intervals. Never suspects anything. He comes home, eats dinner, watches TV, goes to bed. Same routine every night. It's like living with a robot. What about when you leave him? When I leave him, you mean? And I'll take everything. The house, the savings, his precious truck if I want it. Colorado's a no-fault state. But I've been documenting his emotional abuse for months. He doesn't know about the journal I've been keeping. Braxton rewound and played that part again. Emotional abuse? He'd never raised his voice to her, never threatened her, never done anything but work his ass off to give her the life she wanted. He fast-forwarded again. Lawyer says if I can prove a pattern of controlling behavior, intimidation, maybe even violence, I can get a restraining order. Then he'll have to leave the house, and I can claim I don't feel safe with him around. The property settlement will favor me. You think he'll fight it? Braxton? No way. He's too proud to make a scene. He'll just accept it and walk away. He always does. The male voice again. What if he doesn't? Then we make sure he doesn't have a choice. Braxton's jaw muscle jumped, but he kept listening. Talk to your friend about it. She thinks the same thing. Men like Braxton are easy to manipulate once you know which buttons to push. Which friend? Mackenzie. She's been through 2 divorces. She knows how this works. Braxton knew Mackenzie Troy. Blonde, loud, recently divorced from her second husband. She and Delaney had been spending a lot of time together lately, going to the gym, having lunch, shopping. He fast-forwarded through what sounded like movement, rustling, then voices again. Once he's out, everything's mine. The house. The accounts. He won't fight. You sure about that? I know my husband. He'll be hurt, but he won't fight. He thinks fighting is beneath him. Noble Braxton, taking the high road. Delaney's voice turned mocking. He'll probably even wish me well. Braxton rewound and played that section 3 times. Each repetition carved deeper into his chest, not with pain, but with something colder. Calculation that he fast-forwarded near the end of the recording. Should go. He'll be home soon. When do I get to see you again? Tomorrow. Same time. He's got that inspection in Westminster. Won't be back until late. I can't wait to have you all to myself. No more sneaking around. Soon, baby. Very soon. The recording ended. Braxton sat in the darkness, turning the device over in his hands. 9 hours of his wife planning his destruction. 9 hours of her laughing with another man about taking everything he'd worked for. He'd been married to Delaney for 10 years. He thought he knew her. Thought he loved her. Turned out he'd been living with a stranger. Braxton stood and walked to the window. Outside, Maple Street looked peaceful. Porch lights glowing, TVs flickering behind curtains, families settling in for the evening. Normal people living normal lives. His phone buzzed. A text from Delaney, working late at the office. Don't wait up. Love you. Sent 20 minutes ago. Braxton deleted the message without responding. He slipped the voice recorder into his pocket and walked downstairs. In the kitchen, he opened the refrigerator and pulled out a beer. The cold bottle felt good in his hands that he sat at the kitchen table and thought about his next move. Delaney expected him to be noble, to take the high road, to walk away quietly when she destroyed his life. She was wrong. Braxton had been in construction for 15 years. He knew that when a structure was compromised, you didn't try to patch it. You tore it down completely and built something new. He finished his beer and went to bed. Braxton woke at 5:30, same as always. Delaney lay beside him, her back turned, still wearing the clothes she'd supposedly worn to work the day before. Her makeup was smudged, her hair tangled. She'd come home sometime after midnight. He'd heard the garage door, her footsteps on the stairs, the bathroom door closing. She'd showered for 20 minutes, trying to wash away the evidence. Braxton got up quietly and dressed for work. Jeans, flannel shirt, work boots. Same routine he'd followed for 10 years in the kitchen. He made coffee and toast. 2 cups, 2 pieces of toast. He ate his standing at the counter, reading the news on his phone. When Delaney came downstairs at 7, her coffee was waiting. "Morning," she said, not quite meeting his eyes. "Morning." Braxton didn't look up from his phone. Delaney poured cream into her coffee, stirring longer than necessary. "How was your day yesterday?" "Fine." "Long." "You?" "Busy. We had that quarterly review meeting." "Ran late." Braxton nodded, still reading. A construction accident in Denver. A new shopping center approved for Aurora. Normal news for a normal morning. "I might be late again tonight," Delaney said. "End of the month, you know. Lots to catch up on." "Sure." She waited for him to say more, but Braxton just finished his coffee and rinsed the cup in the sink. "I should go," he said. "Early start today." Delaney stepped toward him, and for a moment, Braxton thought she might hug him goodbye. Instead, she just stood there, looking uncertain. "Have a good day," she said finally. Braxton leaned down and kissed her forehead. Her skin was warm, soft. She smelled like vanilla and lies. "You too." He grabbed his lunchbox and jacket, same as always. At the door, he turned back. "Love you," he said. Relief flooded her face. "Love you too." Braxton walked to his truck, started the engine, and backed out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, he saw Delaney watching from the window. Instead of heading toward the construction site, he drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks away and parked where he could see his house. At 8:15, Delaney's Honda backed out of the garage. She didn't turn toward downtown where her accounting office was located. She turned west, toward the highway. Braxton followed at a distance, staying 2 cars back. Traffic was light, making it easy to track her silver Honda without getting too close. She exited at Wadsworth and drove to a strip mall with a gym, a sandwich shop, and a cell phone store. The gym had a bright green sign. Peak Fitness. Transform your body. Transform your life. Delaney parked and walked inside. Through the large windows, Braxton could see her talking to someone at the front desk. A man came out from behind the counter. Tall, muscular, wearing a tank top that showed off his arms. The man hugged Delaney. Not a friendly hug. A lover's hug. Braxton took out his phone and snapped several photos. The man had short brown hair, a perfect smile, and the kind of confidence that came from never having to work for anything that he drove back to the coffee shop and sat in a corner booth with his laptop. The gym's website loaded quickly. Peak Fitness, meet our team. There he was. Kellen Rhodes, personal trainer. Kellen brings passion and energy to every workout. His specialized training in functional fitness and nutrition counseling has helped hundreds of clients achieve their goals. Braxton clicked through the staff photos until he found a better picture. Kellen flexing in the gym, his smile wide and vacant. The kind of man who thought intelligence was optional if you had good abs. The kind of man Delaney was throwing away 10 years of marriage for. Braxton closed the laptop and drove to work. He had a job to finish, and after that, he had planning to do to the construction site. He moved through his duties with mechanical precision, checking progress, reviewing blueprints, coordinating with subcontractors. His crew knew better than to bother him with small problems when he was in this mood. During lunch break, he sat in his truck and made a list on a yellow legal pad. What I know. Delaney is having an affair with Kellen Rhodes. She's planning to divorce me and take everything she's documenting fake abuse to use against Meher friend Mackenzie is helping her. She thinks I won't fight back what I need. More evidence, legal advice, help from people I trust. A plan what she doesn't know. I know about the affair I have. The voice recording am not the man she thinks I am. Braxton folded the paper and put it in his wallet. When he got home that evening, Delaney was in the kitchen making dinner. She smiled when she saw him. The same smile she'd been giving him for 10 years. How was work? Good. You? Quiet day at the office. She stirred something on the stove. I thought we could eat together tonight. We haven't talked much lately. Sure. They ate dinner and watched TV like a normal married couple. Delaney curled up against him on the couch during a movie, her head on his shoulder. She felt familiar and warm. Tea 10 o'clock. She kissed him goodnight and went upstairs. Braxton followed 20 minutes later. She was already asleep, or pretending to be. He lay in the darkness, listening to her breathe. In the morning, she would continue her plan to destroy his life. She would meet with Kellen and laugh about how easy it was to fool her stupid husband. But Braxton wasn't planning to be anyone's fool. He was planning to be their nightmare. 3 days of surveillance taught Braxton everything he needed to know about Kellen Rhodes. The man kept a schedule as predictable as sunrise, morning workouts at 6, personal training sessions from 8 to noon, lunch at the sandwich shop next to the gym, more clients until 5, then freedom to destroy other people's marriages. Braxton sat in his truck across from Peak Fitness, watching Kellen load equipment into a black Jeep Wrangler. The license plate read Beast Mode. Subtle, his phone rang. Unknown number. Yeah, is this Braxton Coyne? Female voice. Young. Who's asking? My name is Jessica. I got your number from a mutual friend. I think we should meet. Braxton's grip tightened on the phone. What about your wife and Kellen Rhodes? I have information you need to hear. Where? Denny's on Colfax. 1 hour. The line went dead. Braxton drove to the restaurant, his mind racing. Who is Jessica? How did she know about Delaney and Kellen? Was this a trap? He found her in a back booth, a young woman with dark hair and nervous eyes. Early 20s, wearing a waitress uniform from another restaurant. She looked up when he approached. You Braxton? He nodded and sat across from her. Jessica Martinez. I work at the gym 3 days a week, cleaning crew. She wrapped her hands around a coffee cup. I see things. What kind of things? Your wife and Kellen. They've been meeting for months. Not just working out. Jessica glanced around the restaurant. At first, I thought it was just training, you know. But then I started noticing what? They used the private training room after hours. The one with no windows. I clean it every morning and... She shrugged. Let's just say they weren't doing squats. Braxton's face remained neutral. Why are you telling me this? Because Kellen's a piece of shit. Jessica's voice turned hard. He did the same thing to my sister. Convinced her to leave her husband. Promised they'd be together. Soon as her divorce was final, he dropped her. She lost everything. Where's your sister now? Living with my mom. Working 2 jobs to pay for a lawyer who can't get her kids back. Jessica leaned forward. Kellen targets married women. Rich ones. He gets them to leave their husbands, then disappears. It's a game to him. Braxton absorbed this information. How many women? Your wife makes for that I know of. Maybe more. Jessica pulled out her phone. I took some pictures. Thought maybe someday someone would want proof. She showed him the screen. Delaney and Kellen in the gym parking lot, kissing beside her Honda. Another shot of them entering a motel on Federal Boulevard. Timestamps from 2 weeks ago. I can send these to you, Jessica said. And I can testify if you need me to. Why would you do that? Because watching good people get destroyed sucks. And because Kellen needs to face consequences for once. Braxton gave her his number. Within minutes, his phone buzzed with incoming photos. There's something else, Jessica said. Your wife asked Kellen to introduce her to someone. A guy who could help with her situation. What kind of help? The kind that makes problems disappear. A chill ran down Braxton's spine. You have proof of this. Just overheard conversations. But Braxton. Jessica met his eyes. Be careful. I don't think your wife is planning just a divorce. Braxton drove home with Jessica's words echoing in his head. When he walked through the front door, Delaney was on the phone in the kitchen. Next week should work perfectly. He'll be at that conference in Denver. She saw Braxton and quickly changed her tone. Okay, Mom. I'll call you later. Love you too. She hung up and smiled. Hi, honey. How was work? Fine. Braxton opened the refrigerator. Conference in Denver. Oh, that. The quarterly construction summit. You mentioned it last month, remember? You said you might go. Braxton had never mentioned any conference. Right. When is it again? Next Wednesday through Friday. Downtown Convention Center. Delaney moved closer. You should go. Take some time for yourself. Network a little. She was setting him up. 3 days away from home while she did. What? Maybe I will, he said. That Delaney's smile brightened. Great. I'll help you pack. That night, Braxton lay awake planning his next move. Delaney thought she was sending him away so she could advance her scheme. Instead, he'd use those 3 days to build his case. But first, he needed allies. Saturday morning found Braxton sitting across from his sister Hadley in her kitchen, watching her patch up a scraped knee on her 7-year-old son. Hold still, Tyler. Hadley's voice carried the same no-nonsense tone she'd used when they were kids. It's just a bandage. It stings. Of course it stings. That's how you know it's working. She smoothed the bandage down and ruffled his hair. Go play. Try not to bleed on anything expensive. Tyler ran off, and Hadley turned to Braxton. At 36, she looked older than her years, but 15 years as a trauma nurse had earned her every line around her eyes. So what's this about? She asked. You sounded weird on the phone. Braxton pulled out his laptop and opened the photos Jessica had sent. Delaney's having an affair. Hadley's face hardened as she scrolled through the images. Son of a bitch. Gets worse. Braxton played the voice recording he'd found under the guest by the time it finished. Hadley looked ready to commit murder. She's planning to screw you over completely. That's the plan. What are you going to do? Fight back. But I need help. Hadley cracked her knuckles. What kind of help? Research. Documentation. Someone I can trust to have my back. Done. She stood and poured herself coffee. What do you need first? Background check on Kellen Rhodes. See if he's done this before. And I need to know more about Delaney's friend Mackenzie. The blonde one? Looks like a real housewife reject. That's her. Hadley nodded. I'll make some calls. I know people who know people. She sat back down. Braxton, are you sure about this? Marriage counseling might. She's trying to destroy me. Hadley. Take my house, my money, maybe even get me arrested on fake charges. Braxton's voice stayed level. I'm not going to therapy with someone who wants to see me ruined. Fair point. Hadley studied her brother's face. You seem different. Calmer than I expected. I am calm. That worries me more than if you were screaming. Braxton's phone buzzed. Text from Marcus Reed. You free? Need to talk. I have to go, Braxton said. But Hadley, whatever you find out, keep it between us. Obviously. She walked up to the door. And Braxton, don't do anything stupid. Define stupid. You know what I mean. 20 minutes later, Braxton met Marcus at a sports bar near downtown Aurora. They'd worked construction together for 8 years before Marcus started his own electrical contracting business. If Braxton trusted anyone besides Hadley, it was Marcus. Beer? Marcus asked. Too early. Coffee then. Marcus signaled the waitress. So what's going on? You sounded like someone died. Someone did. My marriage. Braxton explained the situation, showing Marcus the same evidence he'd shared with Hadley. Marcus listened without interrupting, his dark eyes growing harder with each revelation. Damn, brother. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. Marcus leaned back in his chair. What do you need? Help tracking financial records. Computer stuff. You're better with technology than I am. I can do that. Marcus pulled out his phone. What about legally? You talked to a lawyer yet? Monday. But I want to have all my ducks in a row first. Smart. Marcus scrolled through his contacts. I know a guy. Private investigator. Former cop. He's discreet and he's good. Expensive. Worth it. Trust me. The waitress brought their coffee. Marcus added sugar and stirred slowly. Can I ask you something? Shoot. How are you so calm about this? If it was my wife, I'd be losing my shit. Braxton stared out the window at the parking lot. Losing my shit won't get me what I want, which is justice. Marcus nodded. What's the plan? Delaney thinks I'm going to a conference next week. 3 days in Denver. She's probably planning something while I'm gone. So don't go. No, I'll go. But not to Denver. Braxton met Marcus's eyes. I'll be right here, documenting everything she does while she thinks I'm away. You want backup? Maybe. Let me see what Hadley finds out first. They finished their coffee and shook hands in the parking lot. Hey, Braxton. Yeah, whatever you're planning, be careful. Angry people do stupid things. I'm not angry, Marcus. That's what worries me. Braxton drove home to find Delaney in the living room with Mackenzie Troy. They sat close together on the couch, their voices low, but they stopped talking when he walked in. Hey, honey, Delaney said. Look who stopped by. Mackenzie smiled, showing too many white teeth. Hi, Braxton. How are you? Fine. He nodded politely. Ladies, Mackenzie was just telling me about her trip to Vegas, Delaney said. Girls' weekend. Sounds fun. I'm sure. Braxton headed for the stairs. I'll be in the garage if you need me. He spent the afternoon organizing his tools, but mostly he was listening. The women's voices carried through the thin walls between the house and garage. He caught fragments of conversation. Sure, he doesn't suspect. Completely clueless. Just like you said, lawyer thinks we should. Kellen wants to speed things up. After the conference, everything changes. When Mackenzie left an hour later, Braxton was still in the garage. Through the window, he watched her hug Delaney goodbye. They spoke briefly by Mackenzie's car, then Mackenzie drove away. Delaney came to the garage a few minutes later. What are you doing out here? Cleaning. Place was a mess. She looked around at his perfectly organized workspace. Looks fine to me. Yeah, well, I like things neat. Delaney moved closer, running her hand along his workbench. Mackenzie thinks we should take a vacation. After your conference, maybe go somewhere tropical. Sounds expensive. We can afford it. Besides, we both deserve a break. She smiled. Just the two of us. Like old times. Braxton nodded, not trusting himself to speak. By the time our fictional vacation rolled around, there wouldn't be any us left to take trips. I'll think about it, he said. Good. Delaney kissed his cheek. I'm making dinner. Don't stay out here too long. After she left, Braxton pulled out his phone and called the private investigator Marcus had recommended. Jake Sullivan Investigations. Jake, this is Braxton Coyne. Marcus Reed gave me your number. Marcus, sure. What can I do for you? I need surveillance on my wife. Starting Monday. Divorce case, among other things. My rate is $500 a day plus expenses. 3-day minimum. Fine. When can we meet? Tomorrow afternoon work? I'll need photos, her schedule, vehicle description. I'll be there. Braxton hung up and looked around his garage. Tools hung in precise rows. Screws and bolts sorted by size in labeled containers. Everything in its place that by the end of next week, his life would be just as organized. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, with snow threatening in the heavy clouds. Braxton loaded his overnight bag into the truck, while Delaney watched from the kitchen window. Drive safe, she called as he backed out of the driveway. Call me when you get to the hotel. Will do. Instead of heading toward Denver, Braxton drove to a motel near the airport and checked in under a false name. Cash payment, no credit cards. From there, he called Jake Sullivan. I'm in position, Jake said. Black pickup truck, tinted windows, parked across from your house. She left about an hour ago, came back with coffee and groceries. Any visitors? Not yet, but the day's young. Braxton spent the morning in his motel room, setting up his own surveillance operation. He'd installed hidden cameras throughout his house the week before, tiny wireless units that fed directly to his laptop. Legal, since it was his house, and completely invisible. The camera in the living room showed Delaney pacing, checking her phone every few minutes. She'd changed clothes 3 times since breakfast. At 11:30, Kellen's black Jeep pulled into the driveway. Target acquired. Jake's voice came through Braxton's phone. Male, 6'2", athletic build, approximately 28 years old. Entering through the front door. On his laptop screen, Braxton watched Kellen embrace his wife in their living room. The kiss lasted 30 seconds. God, I missed you, Delaney said. It's only been 2 days. Too long. She led him toward the stairs. Come on. We have the whole house to ourselves. Braxton closed the laptop. He didn't need to see what happened next. Instead, he drove to Peak Fitness and parked outside. Through the windows, he could see the gym was busy with a lunch crowd. personal trainers working with clients, people on treadmills, the normal rhythm of a business day. Except one of their trainers was at Braxton's house, screwing his wife at 2 o'clock. Jake called again. Subject, leaving your residence. Male departed first. Female followed 20 minutes later in separate vehicle. Where did they go? Different directions. He went back to the gym. She went to a shopping center on Hampton. Braxton drove home and retrieved the voice recorder from under the guest bed. It had captured everything that he sat in his kitchen, listening to his wife and her lover plan his destruction. Conference ends Friday. We need to move fast after that. What about the thing we discussed? Mackenzie's friend can handle it, but has to look natural. How natural? Accident. Worksite incident. Construction's dangerous. People get hurt. Braxton's blood turned to ice. They weren't just planning to rob him. They were planning to kill him. He fast-forwarded through the recording, stopping when he heard his name again. Insurance policy is for $2 million. Accidental death clause doubles it. For $1 million, plus the house, his truck, everything else. We'll be set for life. When? Soon. Mackenzie says her friend needs a week to set it up. Braxton saved the recording to 3 different devices, then encrypted copies and uploaded them to a secure cloud storage account. If something happened to him, Hadley had instructions to release everything to the police. His phone rang. Delaney. Hi, honey. How's Denver? Good. Boring seminars, but good networking. That's great. I miss you. Miss you too. The lie tasted like ashes. What are you up to? Nothing exciting. Had lunch with Mackenzie. Now I'm shopping for something to wear to dinner tomorrow. Dinner. Girls' night. Remember? I told you Mackenzie and I were going to that new steakhouse. Another lie. According to Jake's surveillance report, she'd spent the afternoon at a motel with Kellen. Right? Have fun. I will. Love you. Love you too. Braxton hung up and called Marcus. How's the fake conference? Educational. Can you meet me tonight? I need to show you something. Sure. Where? That bar on Alameda. 8 o'clock. See you there. Braxton spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing the evidence he'd collected. Photos of Delaney and Kellen together. Voice recordings of their plans. Financial records showing money she'd moved without his knowledge. But the real bombshell was the conversation about having him killed. At 8 o'clock, he met Marcus at the bar and played the recording. Marcus's face went white. Jesus Christ, Braxton. They're talking about murder. Sounds like it. You have to go to the police. With what? A recording that might not be admissible? Hearsay about some friend of Mackenzie's. Braxton shook his head. I need more evidence. Or you could just disappear. Leave town. Start over somewhere else. Run away. Braxton's voice was quiet, but Marcus recognized the dangerous calm. Let them think they won. Stay alive, maybe. No. Braxton finished his beer. I'm going to end this, but I'm going to do it right. What's the plan? Patience. Let them dig their own graves. And if they try to kill you first. Braxton smiled, and Marcus suddenly understood why Delaney had picked the wrong man to cross. Then they better not miss. Wednesday brought unseasonably warm weather, melting the frost from car windshields and sending people out in lighter jackets. Braxton sat in Jake Sullivan's surveillance vehicle, watching his house through tinted windows. She's been busy, Jake said, handing him a coffee. Yesterday alone, she met with 3 different people. The boyfriend, the blonde friend, and someone new. New how? Male, mid-40s, drives a gray sedan with dealer plates. Stayed in her car for about 20 minutes, then left. Money changed hands. Braxton studied the photos Jake had taken. The man looked ordinary average height, thinning hair, the kind of face you'd forget 5 minutes after seeing it. Professional, that'd be my guess. The way he checked his surroundings before approaching the car, kept his hands visible, minimal contact. Either he's very cautious or very experienced. Or both. Jake nodded. Your wife's playing in the big leagues now. At 10:30, Delaney left the house and drove downtown. Jake followed at a distance, while Braxton monitored from a second vehicle. She parked outside a law office and went inside. Bradshaw and Associates, Jake said, reading the building directory through binoculars. Family law specialists. She's filing. Looks like it. Delaney emerged an hour later, carrying a manila envelope. She sat in her car for several minutes, making phone calls, then drove to a coffee shop where Mackenzie was waiting. They're celebrating, Jake observed, watching the women through the cafe window. A lot of smiling and hugging going on. Braxton's phone buzzed. Text from Delaney. Hope your conference is going well. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Have something important to tell you. She's going to serve me, he told Jake. Tomorrow when I get home. Spring it on me. Act like she just made the decision. What's your play? Let her. Jake looked at him sideways. You sure about that? I'm sure. They followed Delaney through the rest of her day. Lunch with Mackenzie turned into shopping, which turned into another meeting with Kellen at the gym. By evening, she was back home, probably practicing her innocent wife act for tomorrow. Braxton returned to his motel and called Hadley. How's the spy game going? She asked. Productively. What did you find out about Kellen? Oh, you'll love this. Papers rustled in the background. Kellen Michael Rhodes, 29 years old, originally from California, moved to Colorado 18 months ago after a messy situation in San Diego. What kind of messy? The kind where a married woman's husband ended up in a hospital. Kellen was never charged, but the victim's family filed a civil suit. Kellen skipped town before it went to trial. Braxton felt pieces clicking into place. What about his finances? Credit cards maxed out, behind on his car payment, owes back rent on his apartment. Your wife isn't his first meal ticket. What about Mackenzie? 2 divorces, both nasty. Currently being sued by her second ex-husband for hiding assets. She's basically broke. Desperate people do desperate things. Exactly. Hadley paused. Braxton, I found something else. Mackenzie has a brother, Danny Troy. He's got a record. What kind of record? Assault, armed robbery, weapons charges. Did 5 years in Cannon City, got out 8 months ago. The mysterious man in the gray sedan suddenly made sense. There's more, Hadley continued. Danny works for a construction demolition company. Industrial explosives, heavy machinery, the works. Braxton felt his blood chill. An accident at a construction site. Someone with access to explosives and heavy equipment. Hadley, I need you to do something for me. Name it. If anything happens to me, anything at all, I need you to take everything we've collected to the police. Don't wait. Don't investigate. Just go. Braxton, promise me. I promise. But nothing's going to happen to you. Probably not. But just in case. Thursday morning, Braxton checked out of the motel and drove toward home, but stopped at a truck stop outside Aurora. He called the construction site where he worked and told his foreman he was taking Friday off. Feeling under the weather, he said. Think I picked up something at the conference. Take care of yourself, Braxton. See you Monday. At noon, he called Delaney. Hi, honey. How's the last day going? Good. Wrapping up now. Should be home around 6. Perfect. I'll have dinner ready. Looking forward to it. Me too. I have some news to share with you. Oh, good news. A pause. We'll talk when you get home. Braxton spent the afternoon parked near his house, watching through binoculars. At 3 o'clock, a gray sedan pulled into his driveway. The same car Jake had photographed earlier in the week that a man got out average height, thinning hair, forgettable face. He spoke briefly with Delaney at the front door, then walked around the house, examining windows, checking sight lines, casing the place. The man left after 20 minutes. At 4:30, Kellen arrived. At 5:15, Mackenzie showed up. They were all there for the big show. Braxton drove to a gas station and called 911. I'd like to report suspicious activity at my home address. What kind of suspicious activity, sir? Unknown individuals surveying my property. My wife mentioned she's been receiving threats from her ex-boyfriend. Braxton gave the dispatcher his address and a description of the gray sedan. We'll send a unit to check it out. Thank you. At 5:45, a police cruiser pulled onto Maple Street. Braxton watched from 2 blocks away as Officer Teague knocked on his front door. Delaney answered, looking flustered. The conversation lasted 10 minutes. Then the officer left. That Braxton's phone rang immediately. Honey, where are you? A police officer just came by asking about suspicious people. What? Are you okay? I'm fine, but I'm scared. Maybe you should come home early. I'm already on my way. Be there in 15 minutes. Hurry. Braxton drove home and parked in his driveway. The house looked normal, porch light on, kitchen window glowing yellow. But he knew 3 people were inside, waiting to destroy his life. He grabbed his overnight bag and walked to the front door. Time for the show to begin. Braxton opened the front door to find Delaney in the kitchen, alone. She was stirring something on the stove, wearing the blue dress he'd bought her for their anniversary 2 years ago. "Welcome home," she said, turning to hug him. "I missed you." "Missed you too." He set his bag down and looked around. "Everything okay? You sounded worried on the phone." "Better now that you're here." She kissed his cheek. "How was Denver?" "Educational. Learned a lot about new construction techniques." Kellen and Mackenzie were somewhere in the house, probably upstairs or in the basement, waiting for their cue. "Dinner's almost ready," Delaney said. "Why don't you get cleaned up?" "Good idea." Braxton went upstairs and showered, taking his time. When he came down, Delaney had set the table with their good china. Candles flickered between wine glasses she'd filled with red wine. "This looks nice," he said. "What's the occasion?" "Sit down first." They ate in relative silence. Delaney kept checking her phone, glancing toward the hallway. She was nervous, picking at her food, drinking wine faster than usual. "So," she said finally, "I had an interesting day." "Yeah? Tell me about it." "Well, I've been thinking. About us. About our marriage." Braxton cut his steak, waiting. "I think we need some space." "Space?" "To figure things out. Maybe try a trial separation." Braxton set down his fork and looked at her. "Where's this coming from?" "We've been growing apart, Braxton. You know we have. We want different things." "Such as?" "I want excitement. Adventure. You want everything to stay the same forever." "Stability isn't a bad thing, Delaney. It is when it turns into stagnation." She refilled her wine glass. "I think you should move out. Temporarily. Give us both some time to think." "Move out my own house." "Our house. And it's just temporary." Braxton leaned back in his chair. "What brought this on?" 3 days ago. Everything was fine." "Everything wasn't fine. I've been unhappy for months, but I didn't know how to tell you." "So you decided while I was away." "I decided after a lot of soul-searching." Braxton nodded slowly. "And if I refuse?" Delaney's face hardened slightly. "Then I'll file for divorce and ask for a restraining order." "On what grounds?" "Emotional abuse, controlling behavior, financial intimidation." There it was, the script they'd prepared. "Those are serious accusations." "They're not accusations if they're true." Braxton stood and walked to the window. Outside, Maple Street looked peaceful. Normal families in normal houses, living normal lives. "I never hurt you, Delaney." "Hurt comes in many forms." "Name one time I controlled you." "One instance of abuse." "It's not always obvious, Braxton. Sometimes it's subtle." He turned back to her. "Give me an example." You make all the financial decisions." "Because I earn the money." "See? That's controlling." "No, that's responsibility." Delaney stood, her hands shaking slightly. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You dismiss my feelings, minimize my concerns. I'm asking for specifics. And I'm telling you I need space." Her voice was too loud, theatrical, performing for an audience. "Where would I go?" Braxton asked. "You have options. Your sister, a motel, an apartment. And you'd stay here, temporarily." "With who?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you planning to stay here alone? Or do you have someone else lined up to keep you company?" Delaney's face flushed. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking a direct question." "I'd be alone, obviously." "Obviously." They stared at each other across the candlelit table. Delaney looked young and beautiful and completely foreign to him. "I'll need some time to think about this," Braxton said finally. "How much time?" "A few days. I'd rather we settled this tonight." "I'm sure you would." Delaney's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then back at him. "There's something else. More surprises?" "I've been seeing someone." Braxton felt his face go still. "Seeing someone? It's not serious. But I wanted to be honest." "How long?" "A few months. While we were married." "While we were married, but unhappy." "I see. It just happened, Braxton. I didn't plan it. But you're planning to continue it." "I don't know. Maybe. If we separate, I'd be free to explore the relationship. And if we don't separate, then I guess we'll see." Braxton walked back to the table and sat down. "What's his name?" "That's not important." "It is to me. Kellen. His name is Kellen." Where did you meet him? The gym. How romantic. Delaney's phone buzzed again. This time she answered it. Hello. What? When? Her face went white. Are you sure? Okay, I'll be right there. She hung up and grabbed her purse. I have to go. Family emergency. What kind of emergency? My aunt had a heart attack. She's in the hospital. Another lie. Delaney's aunt lived in Florida and had been dead for 3 years. Which hospital? Presbyterian. I might be gone all night. Want me to come with you? No, you're tired from traveling. Get some rest. We'll finish talking tomorrow. She kissed his forehead and hurried toward the door. Delaney. She turned back. I love you, he said. For just a moment, her face softened. I love you too, Braxton. That's why this is so hard. Then she was gone, leaving him alone with the candles and the dirty dishes and the silence. Braxton sat at the table for several minutes, then got up and began clearing plates. As he loaded the dishwasher, his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, is this Braxton Coyne? Female voice, different from before. Yes. My name is Mackenzie Troy. I think we need to meet. Braxton's pulse quickened. About what? Your wife. And Kellen Rhodes. And the mess they're making of both our lives. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Can you meet me somewhere? When? Now. It's important. Where? You know the Starbucks on Hampton? I'll be in my car. Silver Lexus. The line went dead. Braxton finished loading the dishwasher, then grabbed his jacket. Whatever Mackenzie wanted, it was happening faster than he'd expected. He drove to the Starbucks and found the silver Lexus in the far corner of the parking lot. Mackenzie sat behind the wheel, smoking a cigarette with shaky hands. Braxton knocked on the passenger window. She motioned for him to get in. You look like hell, he said. Feel worse. Mackenzie took a long drag from her cigarette. We need to talk. About how your wife and my friend are planning to screw us both. I'm listening. Mackenzie reached into her purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. This afternoon, Delaney called me. Said she needed my help with something. Something big. She pressed play. Delaney's voice filled the car. Needs to look like an accident. Worksite incident. Danny can handle the details. Mackenzie's voice. What about afterward? Afterward, I'm a grieving widow with a lot of insurance money. Kellen and I disappear for a while. Let things cool down. And me, you get your cut like we agreed. 50,000. That's not enough. It's what we discussed. I changed my mind. I want 100. 50 is all I can spare right now. Then find more. Because if something goes wrong, I'm not going down alone. The recording ended. Braxton stared out the windshield. When was this? 3 hours ago. Mackenzie flicked her cigarette out the window. Your wife is planning to have you killed, and she's using my brother to do it. Your brother? Danny. He works construction demolition. Thinks he's some kind of criminal mastermind. Mackenzie's voice was bitter. Delaney promised him 20,000 to make you disappear. And you're telling me this because I'm scared. Danny's unstable when he's been drinking, and he's been drinking a lot lately. If this goes wrong, people are going to get hurt. People like you. People like both of us. Mackenzie met his eyes. Look, I'll be honest. I helped Delaney plan the divorce. I thought we were just going to take you for some money. Not this. Murder's a bigger step. Way bigger. And I want out. Braxton studied her face. What do you want from me? Protection. Help. I don't know. Mackenzie lit another cigarette. Maybe we can help each other. How? I have recordings. Photos. Evidence of everything they've been planning. She exhaled smoke. But I need something in return. What? When this is over, you don't press charges against me. I walk away clean. And if I refuse, then you're on your own against 2 people who want you dead. Braxton considered the offer. Mackenzie was scared, desperate, looking for the best deal she could make. But she also had evidence he needed. Show me what you have. Mackenzie pulled out her phone and played another recording. This one was Kellen talking to Danny Troy, discussing the best ways to stage a construction accident. Explosive charges would work, but they'd investigate that. Better to make it look like equipment failure. I can handle equipment failure. When? Monday. He'll be back at work Monday. You sure you can make it look natural? Trust me. I know what I'm doing. The recording ended. Monday, Braxton said. For days. Mackenzie's hands were shaking again. They're going to kill you Monday. Unless I kill them first. Mackenzie's face went white. I don't want anyone else to die. Then we better come up with a different plan. Friday morning dawned clear and cold, with frost covering the brown grass like powdered sugar. Braxton sat in his kitchen, drinking coffee and reviewing the recordings Mackenzie had given him the night before. His phone rang. Jake Sullivan. We got movement, Jake said. Your wife left the house 20 minutes ago, met with the gym guy at a pancake place on Colfax. They're talking pretty intensely. Any sign of the brother? Not yet, but I'll keep watching. Braxton hung up and called Marcus. You ready for this? Marcus asked. As ready as I can be. Equipment's all set. Cameras, microphones, backup recordings. If they so much as whisper about murder, we'll have it documented. Good. And the police? Officer Teague is briefed. He'll be monitoring from a distance, ready to move when you give the signal. Braxton had spent the previous evening meeting with Teague, sharing the evidence he'd collected. The young officer had listened with growing amazement and anger. This is attempted murder, Teague had said. We can arrest them now. On what charges? Conspiracy based on recordings that might not be admissible? They haven't actually done anything yet. They hired someone to kill you. Allegedly. And where's your proof Danny Troy was hired for murder? All you have is a conversation about construction accidents. Teague had seen the problem. Without catching them in the act, the charges might not stick. Expensive lawyers could argue the recordings were taken out of context, that the conversations were hypothetical. So what's your plan? Teague had asked. Give them a chance to hang themselves. Now, sitting in his kitchen, Braxton called Delaney. Hi, honey. How are you feeling? Better. Sorry about last night. Family stuff, you know. How's your aunt? Stable. Thanks for asking. Delaney's voice was bright, cheerful. Listen, I was thinking about what we discussed. Maybe I was too hasty. Oh, maybe we should try counseling first, before we make any big decisions. I'd like that. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. A pause. Are you working today? No, I called in sick. Still feeling a little rough from that conference. Poor baby. Why don't you take the weekend to rest? I'll take care of everything. Everything. Groceries, errands, whatever needs doing. You just relax. That's very thoughtful. I love you, Braxton. I want to make this work. Love you too. After hanging up, Braxton walked through the house, checking the hidden cameras Marcus had installed during the night. Tiny wireless units no bigger than buttons, positioned to capture every angle of the living room, kitchen, and hallway. At 10 o'clock, his phone buzzed. Text from Delaney. Having lunch with Mackenzie. Back this afternoon. Rest up. Instead of resting, Braxton drove to meet Mackenzie at a truck stop outside town. She was waiting in her Lexus, looking like she hadn't slept. You sure about this? She asked when he got in her car. You having second thoughts? About a dozen of them. Mackenzie lit a cigarette with shaky fingers. If this goes wrong, Danny will kill us both. If this goes right, Danny will be in prison. What if he doesn't take the bait? Then we'll find another way. Braxton's phone rang. Jake Sullivan. Your wife and the gym guy just met with someone new. Male, 40s, drives a white panel van. They talked in the parking lot for about 10 minutes, then the guy left. Which direction? North on Federal. Want you to follow? No, stay on Delaney. Braxton hung up and looked at Mackenzie. Your brother drives a white panel van? Sometimes. Depends on which job he's working. He's in play. Shit. Mackenzie took a long drag from her cigarette. This is really happening. You can still back out. And go where? Danny's already talking about what he's going to do with his 20,000. If I disappear now, he'll know something's wrong. Then we stick to the plan. At 2 o'clock, Braxton returned home. The house felt different, charged with tension, like the air before a thunderstorm. He made himself a sandwich and sat at the kitchen table, waiting. Delaney came home at 3:30, carrying shopping bags and wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. How are you feeling? She asked. Better. What did you buy? Just some things for dinner. I thought we could cook together tonight. Sounds nice. She unpacked groceries while chattering about her day, but Braxton could see the nervousness underneath. She kept checking her phone, glancing out the window at 4 o'clock. Someone knocked on the front door. Expecting anyone? Braxton asked. No, I'll get it. Delaney opened the door to reveal a man in his 40s with thinning hair and cold eyes. Danny Troy, though Braxton was supposed to not know that. Mrs. Coyne, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm with Rocky Mountain Demolition. We're doing some work in the neighborhood next week, and I wanted to let you know about potential noise and dust issues. Oh, how thoughtful. Mind if I come in for a minute? I have some paperwork for you to look at. Braxton walked to the front door. What kind of work? Danny's eyes flicked over him, calculating. Foundation repair on the house 3 blocks over. We'll be using some heavy equipment, possibly some control charges. Want to make sure everyone's prepared. Controlled charges? Small ones. Very safe when done properly. Danny smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You work construction, don't you, Mr. Coyne? You understand how these things work. I do. Then you know accidents can happen if people aren't careful. The threat was subtle but clear. Braxton nodded. Safety first. Exactly. Danny handed Delaney a business card. We'll be starting Monday morning. Early. If you hear loud noises, don't worry. Everything's under control. Monday morning, Delaney repeated. Bright and early. Danny looked at Braxton again. You'll probably be at work by then, won't you, Mr. Coyne? Probably. Good. Wouldn't want any civilians getting in the way. After Danny left, Delaney closed the door and leaned against it. That was weird, she said. How so? I don't know. Something about him seemed off. Braxton shrugged. Construction guys. We're all a little rough around the edges. That evening, they cooked dinner together like a normal married couple. Delaney seemed more relaxed, laughing at Braxton's jokes, touching his arm while they talked. For moments at a time, it felt like the old days. After dinner, they sat on the couch watching TV. Delaney curled up next to him, her head on his shoulder. I'm sorry about everything, she said softly. What do you mean? The separation talk. The stress I've been putting on you. I think I was just scared. Scared of what? Of us becoming those couples who live like roommates. I wanted to shake things up before we got too comfortable. Is that what happened? Maybe. I don't know. She tilted her head to look at him. Do you think we can fix this? I think we could try. Good. She kissed his cheek. I love you, Braxton. Love you too. But even as he said it, Braxton was thinking about Monday morning. About Danny Troy and his controlled charges. About the insurance policy worth $4 million. About justice that at 11 o'clock, Delaney went to bed. Braxton followed an hour later, but he didn't sleep. He lay in the darkness, listening to her breathe, counting down the hours until Monday. When his alarm went off at 6, Delaney was already awake. You don't have to go to work today, she said. You could call in sick again. I'm feeling better. And we have that big inspection Monday. I should be there. Are you sure? Positive. He got dressed and kissed her goodbye, same as always. At the door, he turned back. See you tonight. See you tonight. But Braxton knew that if Delaney's plan worked, he'd never see anything again. Time to make sure her plan failed. Monday morning arrived with leaden skies and the smell of snow in the air. Braxton sat in his truck outside the construction site, watching his crew arrive for another day of work. Normal men doing normal jobs, unaware that one of their supervisors was supposed to die today. His phone buzzed. Jake Sullivan. White panel van just pulled into the industrial area near your work site. Driver matches the description of a brother. How far from my location? Quarter mile. He's setting up equipment behind a concrete plant. What kind of equipment? Hard to tell from this distance, but it looks like demolition gear. Charges, detonators, remote triggers. Braxton's radio crackled. His foreman's voice. Braxton, you copy? Go ahead, Tom. Got a problem with the crane on level 3. Need you to take a look. On my way. Braxton clicked off and smiled grimly. The crane on level 3 was exactly where Danny Troy would want him to be. Isolated, high up, perfect for an accident. He called Officer Teague. You in position, 2 blocks away. SWAT teams standing by. Remember, wait for my signal. If you move too early, they'll claim this was all theoretical planning. Copy that. Be careful, Braxton. Braxton grabbed his hard hat and walked into the construction site. The building was a 6-story office complex, still in the framing stage. Steel beams and concrete floors, but no walls yet. Plenty of places for an explosion to look accidental. He took the service elevator to level 3 and found the crane operator, Pete Kowalski, standing beside his machine with a confused expression. What's the problem, Pete? That's just that there ain't one. Crane's running fine. But some guy called the office this morning, said he was from the inspection team. Told them to have you check the crane personally before we started work. What guy? Don't know. Tom took the call. Braxton's radio crackled again. Tom's voice. Braxton, where are you? Inspector's here early. Wants to see you right away. Which inspector? New guy. Says he's from the state's safety board. Danny Troy was making his move. Tell him I'll be right down. Braxton looked around level 3. Open to the sky. Concrete floor still wet in places. Steel beams extending out over a 40-foot drop. If someone planted charges on the support columns, the whole floor could collapse. He walked to the edge and looked down. Danny's white van was visible behind the concrete plant. Antenna extended from its roof. Remote detonation setup. His phone buzzed. Text from Delaney. Hope you have a good day at work. Be safe. Love you. The concern was touching. Too bad it was fake. Braxton rode the elevator down to ground level. A man in a hard hat and safety vest was talking to Tom near the site trailer. Average height, thinning hair, cold eyes. Danny Troy. Mr. Coyne. Danny extended his hand. Dave Thompson, State Safety Inspection. I need to discuss some concerns about your crane operations. What kind of concerns? Structural integrity issues. We've had reports of potential failure points in the mounting system. Danny consulted a clipboard. I need you to show me the installation up on level 3. Sure. When? Now, if possible. The sooner we identify any problems, the sooner we can get them fixed. Braxton nodded. Pete, you come too. You know that crane better than anyone. Danny's face tightened slightly. Actually, I prefer to discuss this one-on-one first. Operator involvement comes later in the process. Company policy says the operator has to be present for all safety inspections. I understand, but no exceptions. Braxton's voice was firm. Pete comes, or we reschedule. Danny looked frustrated, but nodded. Fine. Let's go. The 3 men rode the elevator to level 3. Danny kept checking his phone, probably coordinating with Delaney and Kellen. They thought they had Braxton isolated and vulnerable. They were wrong. So, Danny said as they walked toward the crane, how long have you been working construction? 15 years. Ever see any major accidents? A few. Terrible things. Explosions, collapses, equipment failures. Danny stopped beside the crane and looked around. Amazing how fast things can go wrong. Amazing how often they're preventable. Not always. Sometimes accidents just happen, no matter how careful people are. Pete was examining the crane's mounting bolts, oblivious to the subtext. Danny pulled out what looked like an inspection device, but Braxton recognized it as a remote detonator. Mr. Coyne, could you step over here? I want to show you something. Danny led him toward the building's edge, away from Pete. Below, workers moved around the site like ants, unaware of the drama playing out above them. Nice view, Danny said. It is. Long way down. 40 feet, give or take. Fatal distance. Usually. Danny checked his phone again. You know, Mr. Coyne, I've been thinking about what we discussed Friday. About safety, accidents, that sort of thing. And sometimes people create their own problems. Make choices that put them in dangerous situations. Such as trusting the wrong people. Believing things that aren't true. Danny's voice hardened. Such as interfering in other people's business. Braxton smiled. What business would that be? Your wife's business. Her happiness. Her future. Braxton nodded. We're not really talking about crane safety, are we? Not anymore. Danny pulled out the detonator, no longer pretending it was an inspection tool. You see, Mr. Coyne, some people think you're in the way, standing between other people and what they want. And you're here to move me out of the way. Something like that. For $20,000. Danny's eyes narrowed. How did you know about that? Lucky guess. Behind them, Pete was still focused on the crane, humming tunelessly as he worked. 40 feet below, the construction crew continued their normal routine. Here's the thing, Danny, Braxton said, using the man's real name for the first time. You're not very good at this. Good enough. No, see, a smart man would have done his homework. Found out who he was dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A construction worker who's about to have a very bad accident. Construction supervisor, Braxton corrected. and former Marine. 2 tours in Afghanistan, demolition specialist. Danny's confidence wavered slightly. You want to know what else you should have found out? Braxton continued. That I've been recording every conversation for the past week. That the police are listening to this right now through the wire I'm wearing. That your sister sold you out yesterday in exchange for immunity. You're lying. Am I? Braxton pulled out his phone and showed Danny the screen. A recording app, red light blinking. Say hi to Officer Teague, Danny. He's been listening to everything. Danny's face went white. He looked around wildly, probably trying to figure out his escape route. It's over, Braxton said. Put down the detonator and we'll do this easy. Instead, Danny raised the device and pressed the trigger. Nothing happened. Looking for these? Braxton pulled a handful of detonator caps from his pocket. I found your charges this morning and disarmed them. You really should have checked your equipment before starting the job. Danny lunged forward, trying to push Braxton over the edge. But Braxton had been expecting it. He sidestepped, grabbed Danny's arm, and used the man's momentum to send him stumbling toward the crane. Pete looked up from his work just as Danny crashed into the machine's control panel. Hey, what the hell? Danny pulled a knife from his belt and slashed at Braxton, who stepped back and let the man overextend himself. When Danny stumbled forward, Braxton grabbed his wrist and twisted until the knife clattered to the ground. Pete, call security. Tell them we have an intruder. Already on it, Pete said, reaching for his radio, but Danny wasn't finished. He broke free from Braxton's grip and ran toward the stairwell, taking the steps 3 at a time. Braxton followed, but Danny had a head start. That be why the time Braxton reached ground level, Danny was sprinting toward his van. He almost made it. Officer Teague's cruiser screamed around the corner of the concrete plant, blocking Danny's escape route. More police cars appeared from other directions, surrounding the white van. Danny stopped running and raised his hands. This is Charlie Team. Teague's voice came through Braxton's earpiece. Suspect is in custody. Move to Phase 2. Phase 2 was Delaney and Kellen. Braxton's phone rang. Honey, Delaney's voice was sharp with worry. I just heard on the radio about some kind of incident at your construction site. Are you okay? I'm fine. Minor accident. Nobody hurt. Thank God. I was so scared when I heard the address. No need to worry. I'll be home at the usual time. Good. Kellen's here helping me move some furniture. We'll probably be gone when you get back, but I'll have dinner ready. Kellen's there now? Yes, he's being so helpful. We're just friends, you know, despite everything that happened. Of course. See you tonight. Love you. Love you too. Braxton hung up and smiled. Delaney was giving him an alibi, confirming that Kellen was at the house right now. When the police arrived to arrest them both, there would be no question about their whereabouts. He called Teague. Danny's down, ready for the rest. SWAT's moving into position around your house now. We'll have them both in custody within the hour. And Mackenzie, safe house until this is over. Her testimony will seal the case. Braxton looked around the construction site. Workers were gathering, pointing at the police cars, trying to figure out what had happened. Soon, everyone would know that someone had tried to kill him. But not just someone. His wife, the woman he'd loved for 10 years. The woman he'd trusted with his life. The woman who'd sold that life for insurance money and a younger man. Mr. Coyne. Pete appeared beside him, still looking confused. What the hell just happened? Someone made a very bad decision, Pete. You okay? Never better. And surprisingly, it was true. 2 hours later, Braxton sat in the Aurora Police Department, watching through one-way glass as Detective Sarah Martinez questioned Delaney in Interview Room 2. His wife looked smaller than usual in the gray metal chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap. I don't understand why I'm here, Delaney was saying. My husband called and said he was fine. Mrs. Coyne, we have evidence that you conspired with Daniel Troy and Kellen Rhodes to murder your husband. Murder? Delaney's voice went up an octave. That's insane. Why would I want to hurt Braxton? Detective Martinez opened a file folder and pulled out a photograph. This is you and Mr. Rhodes at the Sunset Motel on Federal Boulevard, taken last Tuesday. Delaney stared at the photo, her face going pale. That doesn't prove anything. It proves adultery, which gives you motive. Martinez pulled out another photo. This is you handing an envelope to Daniel Troy outside the Starbucks on Hampton. Our surveillance shows money changing hands. I don't know who that is. That's Mackenzie, Troy's brother. Your friend Mackenzie, who's been cooperating with our investigation. Delaney's composure cracked. Mackenzie wouldn't. She's my friend. Some friend. She's been recording your conversations for the past week. Martinez pressed play on a small recorder that Delaney's voice filled the room. Needs to look like an accident. Worksite incident. Danny can handle the details. The woman in the chair looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Where did you get that? From Ms. Troy, along with about 6 hours of similar recordings. She was involved too. She helped plan everything. Ms. Troy came to us voluntarily and provided evidence in exchange for immunity. Very smart of her. Delaney's hands were shaking now. You don't understand. Braxton is controlling, abusive. I was afraid for my life. Really? What kind of abuse? Emotional. Financial. He controlled everything I did. Can you give us specific examples? He made all the financial decisions. Because he earned the money, he wouldn't let me have my own credit cards. Our investigation shows you have 4 credit cards in your name, with a combined limit of $60,000. Delaney opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water. Mrs. Coyne, did your husband ever hit you? No, but threaten you physically. Not exactly, but prevent you from leaving the house. He didn't have to. The psychological pressure. Mrs. Coyne, Martinez leaned forward. We have recordings of you laughing about how easy your husband was to manipulate. We have evidence of you planning his murder for insurance money. We have your lover in custody, and he's already confessing everything. Delaney's face crumpled. Kellen's talking like a canary. Blamed the whole thing on you, actually. Said you seduced him, manipulated him, threatened to expose their affair if he didn't help. That's not true. Which part? Any of it. It was his idea. He said we could be together if Braxton was out of the picture. So you did plan to kill your husband. Delaney realized what she'd just admitted. I want a lawyer. Smart choice. In the observation room, Braxton turned away from the glass. Officer Teague stood beside him, taking notes. Seen enough? Teague asked. More than enough. How do you feel? Braxton considered the question. Disappointed, but not surprised. You want to talk to her? No point. She just lies some more. They walked down the hallway to interview room 3, where Kellen sat across from Detective Rodriguez. Even in handcuffs, the younger man managed to look arrogant. Never my idea, Kellen was saying. Delaney came to me with this whole plan. Said her husband was abusive, that she needed help getting away from him. By killing him, she said it was the only way, that he'd never let her go otherwise. Kellen leaned forward. Look, I was just trying to help a woman in trouble. By helping her commit murder. I never agreed to murder. The plan was to scare him, make him think twice about controlling her. With explosives? Danny's idea. Delaney's brother-in-law is crazy. I told them it was too dangerous. Rodriguez consulted his notes. Mr. Rhodes, we have recordings of you discussing the insurance money with Mrs. Coyne. For $1 million, to be split between you two. That's taken out of context. Is it? Let me play something for you. Kellen's own voice filled the room. For $1 million split 2 ways is $2 million each. Enough to disappear somewhere tropical. I was just, hypothetically speaking, about murdering someone for money. I want a lawyer. Another smart choice. Braxton had heard enough. He left the police station and drove home, where yellow crime scene tape fluttered around his front door. The house looked small and ordinary, nothing like the place where a murder had been planned. His phone rang. Hadley, are you okay? I'm fine. This is unbelievable. Delaney actually tried to have you killed, tried and failed. Where are you staying tonight? You can't go home yet. Hotel, probably. Forget that. Pack a bag and come here. Tyler's been asking about his uncle anyway. Braxton smiled for the first time all day. Thanks, Hadley. That's what family's for. An hour later, he sat at his sister's kitchen table while Tyler showed him a model airplane they'd been building together. Mom says Aunt Delaney did something bad, Tyler said. Something very bad. Are you sad? Braxton thought about it. A little. But mostly I'm relieved. Because she can't hurt you anymore. That's right. Tyler nodded solemnly. Mom says bad people always get caught eventually. Your mom's a smart woman. I know. Tyler grinned. She's also making spaghetti for dinner. The kind with the really big meatballs. My favorite. Later, after Tyler had gone to bed, Braxton and Hadley sat on the back porch, drinking beer and watching stars appear in the clear sky. What happens now? Hadley asked. Trials. Testimony. Probably a lot of lawyers. What about the house? It's mine. Bought and paid for with money I earned. And Delaney, 25 to life, if the prosecutor gets his way. Murder conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud, a dozen other charges. Good. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Braxton, yeah, are you going to be okay? Really okay? He considered the question seriously. Yeah, I think I am. It hurts, finding out the person you loved was capable of that. But it's better than being dead. Much better. And at least now I know the truth. No more wondering. No more second-guessing myself. The truth's not always easy. No, but it's better than living a lie. Above them, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to human betrayal and pain, but also indifferent to human justice. Braxton finished his beer and went inside to call his lawyer. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more statements, more evidence to review. But tonight, for the first time in months, he would sleep peacefully. 6 months later, Braxton stood in his renovated kitchen, watching snow fall past the new windows. The house looked completely different. Fresh paint, new floors, updated fixtures. Same bones, but everything else had been stripped away and rebuilt. Like his life, the trials were over. Delaney had been sentenced to 28 years for conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. Kellen got 15 years as an accomplice. Danny Troy received the longest sentence, 35 years for attempted murder and a dozen other charges dating back to his previous crimes. Mackenzie had testified for the prosecution and received probation in exchange for her cooperation. She'd left Colorado the day after the trials ended, smart enough to know she wasn't welcome anymore. The civil lawsuit against Delaney's estate had been settled quickly. Braxton now owned the house outright, plus damages for emotional distress and attempted murder. The insurance company had paid out gladly, grateful to avoid a bigger payout on his death. His phone rang. Marcus, you free for lunch? I'm buying. Sure. Where? That new place on Colfax. Celebrate your freedom. I've been free for 6 months. Yeah, but today's special. Delaney's appeal got denied. Braxton hadn't been following the appeals process closely, but the news was satisfying. No more legal drama. None. It's finally over. They met at the restaurant, a small family-owned place with good food and reasonable prices. Over burgers and beer, Marcus caught him up on local news and construction gossip. You thought about dating again? Marcus asked eventually. Some. That's not an answer. Braxton shrugged. I'm not in any hurry. It's been 6 months. It's been 6 months since I found out my wife of 10 years was trying to have me murdered. I think I'm entitled to take my time. Fair point. Marcus finished his beer. But don't wait too long. Good women don't stay single forever. I'll keep that in mind. After lunch, Braxton drove to the grocery store. In the produce section, he ran into Lois Draper, his elderly neighbor. Braxton, how are you, dear? Good, Lois. How are you? Oh, can't complain. Though I do miss having someone to gossip about. She leaned closer conspiratorially. The new couple that moved into the Morrison place is boring as toast. Braxton smiled. That's probably a good thing, I suppose. Still, life's more interesting with a little drama. I've had enough drama for a while. Of course you have. Lois patted his arm. You know, I always thought there was something off about Delaney. Too perfect, if you know what I mean. You never mentioned that before. Well, you were married to her. Wasn't my place to say anything. It is now. Now she's in prison where she belongs. Lois's voice turned fierce. Anyone who tried to hurt a good man, like you, deserves whatever they get. That evening, Braxton sat in his living room with a glass of wine, reading a book about construction techniques in ancient Rome. The house was quiet except for the wind outside and the occasional settling of old wood. It was the kind of quiet he'd never had with Delaney. She'd always been moving, talking, filling the silence with noise. He'd thought that was normal, healthy even. Now, he realized it had been nervous energy, the constant motion of someone living a lie. This was better. Honest quiet. Peaceful quiet. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Hi, this is Jessica Martinez. Remember me? From the gym? I heard about what happened. I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk to someone who understands, call me. Braxton stared at the message for a long time. Jessica, the cleaning lady who'd first told him about Delaney and Kellen. The woman whose sister had been destroyed by the same man. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe it was time to consider moving forward, but not tonight. Tonight was for quiet, for wine, for books about ancient Romans who'd built things that lasted thousands of years. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the street in fresh white. By morning, everything would look clean and new again. Braxton closed his book and went to bed in his renovated house, in his reclaimed life. For the first time in months, he fell asleep easily. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. He was ready. The house with no echo had finally fallen silent.